Bangladesh is grappling with its worst crisis. As violent unrest continues to burn the country, Bangladesh media has reported that PM Sheikh Hasina has resigned and fled the nation for a safer place, potentially India. The Bangladesh army has taken the charge of the nation and the army chief is expected to address the nation shortly. Notably, the anti-job quota protests that had subdued earlier last week went violent once again, claiming nearly 100 lives, including the lives of 13 police officers in a single day. But it is shocking that a protest, which initially began as a peaceful protest, took a violent turn, with many, including the army, demanding Hasina's resignation. The development highlights at two important points. Firstly, she might have negotiated for her safety by agreeing to leave the power, and secondly, the army might had some role in the whole thing, though hidden. On Sunday, the situation reached a peak as police clashed with tens of thousands of protesters, firing rubber bullets and tear gas to disperse the crowd. In an attempt to control the chaos, the government imposed an internet blackout and an indefinite nationwide curfew. However, these measures have failed to quell the growing discontent. Student protests over contentious quota system, which reserves up to 30% of government positions for the families of war veterans, have ignited widespread chaos and devastation, demanding PM Sheikh Hasina's resignation, accusing her of failing to address recent violent conflicts. Protesters are calling for a statewide non-cooperation campaign, urging people to skip work on Sundays, a major working day in Bangladesh, as well as to withhold taxes and utility payments. Dhaka and other cities are facing transportation disruptions, even as factories, banks, and offices remain open. Protesters are defying the curfew, pushing to march to Dhaka, the nation's capital, to demand Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina's resignation. Attacks on police stations, government facilities, and ruling party headquarters are increasing as the violence escalates. Critical infrastructure has also suffered. The Bangladesh Railway has suspended operations, and the garment industry, crucial to the country's economy, has shut down permanently. Meanwhile, thousands of Awami League party supporters have organized counter-protests, raising fears of further unrest and violent confrontation in the capital. The government's response, marked by coercive measures and the suspension of internet service, has drawn increased criticism from opposition leaders and human rights organizations. Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina has accused the Bangladesh Nationalist Party and the now banned Jamaat-e-Islami Party of inciting the unrest, labeling the demonstrators as criminals rather than students.
মুক্তিযোদ্ধাদের নাতিপুতিরাও পাবে না, তাহলে কি রাজাকারের নাতিপুতিরা পাবে?
Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina's provocative remarks, in which she labelled opponents of the quota system as Razakars, ignited intense student-led protests. The term Razakars refers to those who collaborated with the Pakistani army during the 1971 Independence War. In a country of 170 million people, where about 32 million youth are unemployed or underemployed, Hasina's refusal to meet the students' demands, citing ongoing legal proceedings, further fueled the unrest. As a result, thousands of students fled their dorms at Dhaka University and took to streets. Despite a recent Supreme Court ruling that reduced the quota from 30% to 5%, protesters continue to demand accountability for the violence and significant reduction to quotas for ethnic minorities, the disabled, and the transgender people. The unrest shows no signs of abating as the army enforces a curfew and reports of arson and damage continue to emerge across the nation. The violence has spread to Dhaka's industries and hospitals, further straining the country's already fragile economy. The government's failure to address the underlying causes of the unrest has exacerbated economic and socialist discontent, leading to a broader breakdown in governance. Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina's administration seems increasingly likely to fail as long as the protests continue unchecked and the governmental authorities' violent crackdown exacerbate the situation. People's anger is growing, pushing the country towards collapse due to the government's inability to address the issues and its harsh actions. Increasing violence and widespread unhappiness are pushing Bangladesh towards an uncertain future. The country urgently needs a settlement that addresses both the underlying problems fueling the unrest and the current instability.